for watching Afternoon Live. Even if you're not alone at work, it's not uncommon to feel lonely, especially if you're running your own business. Here with advice, we welcome back licensed mental health therapist and entrepreneurial well-being specialist, Jennifer Gray. It's so great to see you.
Oh, yeah, you as well.
Well, we've been talking a lot about loneliness just in culture, but not so much kind of in the business sector.
Definitely not. I feel like it's super underserved in our conversation. Absolutely. Yeah. When we think about business, I think the two things we think of are like, freedom, autonomy, all the wonderful bits of it.
Yeah.
And certainly people think about, how busy it is, right, for an entrepreneur, but we definitely don't talk about the loneliness piece enough.
Well, we'll talk about some things today that do apply to entrepreneurs, but I think a lot of people can relate, especially if you're working from home. Maybe you're part of a team, but you don't see them every day, and that can really change your experience.
Yes, definitely. And I think that's a big part of it, right? Some companies, even especially if you work at home, even some companies still might not have like that built-in support system that you're used to having. And that can be really difficult. And, if you work from home, you're a business owner, whatever it is, a lot of the hats are on you. You kind of have to figure out everything on your own, and that can be a lot of pressure, and that can take up a lot of space, and can often make us not want to sort of share about what's going on for us, and that can make it even more isolating.
And then you don't realize over time the weight that just keeps building and building when you're not really getting any relief from those pressures.
Absolutely, yeah. And sometimes we don't recognize those because, again, they're not really talked about in our society. So most people don't know, what am I supposed to look for when I am feeling isolated or lonely?
Let's talk about some red flags that maybe you're not missing. Okay, here's one. You might go days without talking to someone who truly gets it. Not just a little conversation, a real conversation.
Exactly. Isolation and loneliness are all about feeling unseen, unheard. And so the important thing is you can have a big community around you, but if you're not actually sharing with them, that's going to make it more difficult. And so you can go weeks without, actually speaking to someone that it really feels good to connect with, and they get it and you get it, and it feels like a supportive conversation.
When you touched on this earlier, that you just don't feel like you can even be honest about how hard it is.
Yeah, that's a really big one. When we don't feel very good about ourselves, maybe we're not feeling very good about where we are in our work position, that can feel really uncomfortable to share with people. We don't want to be seen in that way, especially if we don't think that person's going to be able to receive it well or support us in perhaps the way we need to.
This one's really interesting. Setbacks can actually hit harder because you're handling them all by yourself.
Yes, exactly. It's so easy to celebrate the wins on our own, right? But when you've been hit pretty hard, it can really feel exhausting. And that, again, can only further isolate you, because if you don't feel good about yourself, you're not going to want to share those things. And then that can even blend into socializing and networking, right? If we don't want to go out into the world and meet people and connect with people because we're scared of being honest, we're scared of how they're going to perceive us, we're kind of only furthering our isolation and loneliness.
Right. We're just feeding into that vicious cycle. Okay, so let's talk about letting people in, taking those first steps to figuring out just finding ways to be seen and understood.
Yes, we can often think about like just build a community, go networking, find those people around you, and those are all important things to do, right? But we've probably all had the experience of being in a room full of people and feeling lonely. And so the important part is leaning into those connections, being more honest, being more upfront about your experiences. Even just a little bit more honest can really be useful.
Even if it feels scary, right? I mean, you've got to be vulnerable to break through and make those real connections.
Yeah, I mean, the scariest things are always the things that are kind of best for us, right?
True. Yeah, that risk-reward situation. Okay, you've got some simple ideas for us to break this cycle of isolation. Tell me about the third place rule.
Yeah, so third place, it's kind of being more spoken about in our society now. And if you're a work from homer, you might need just a second space because you only have that first space that you're going to. And a third place is just some place you're going to regularly see people. So a local coffee shop, your local library, a class you really want to enjoy. So you're getting out there a few times a week, at least once a week. You're seeing these familiar people. You're utilizing some basic social skills, which always gives us a little bit of a boost of confidence. And so again, you're just making these simple connections and just kind of reminding yourself that there are other folks out there in the world and you don't have to feel so lonely in it.
That's a great way to put it. Okay, and then calling out your own isolation. You've got to keep yourself accountable too.
Absolutely. Do not wait until someone in your life is upset with you, a client's mad, a boss is mad, whatever it is. Don't wait for that. If you haven't spoken to someone in a few weeks or in a while, especially people you feel haven't or you feel that actually get it, are actually going to get what you're saying, that should be your own signal to say, hey, I'm going to reach out to a few friends, a few colleagues, whatever it is, and just say, what's your plan for the day? Can we connect on a regular basis? Even if it feels maybe a little superficial, that's okay.
Sure.
Because those things are eventually going to lead to deeper connections.
Yeah, you don't have to jump into the deep end with the first text to a friend you haven't seen in a while.
Right, exactly.
Take it easy.
You don't need to pour your whole heart out immediately.
Okay, this is really interesting. Give just 5% more honesty.
Yes, just 5% more honesty. Like I just said, you're not pouring your heart out completely. You don't have to tell all the family traumas right up front.
Yeah.
But if we can lean into that a little bit more, that's just going to be such an important way, again, to show ourselves that it's okay to connect with people. But I think the thing I love about when we lean in just a little bit is that we actually find that other folks are also going to lean back in, right? And so we end up creating this really natural, beautiful way of building community that is supportive and that's deep and that's really going to get us. So if you can lean in a bit, other folks are going to lean in a little bit, and that's really going to help you over time manage that loneliness.
Yeah, if you can take the first step, the people who are there that care about you are going to meet you always.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Great
you so
to
much.
see you.
You as
It's
well,
always
Hannah.
fun to chat. Okay, we'll have more information on our website at katu.com.